Black Friday and football. If you make it to that point, it has been a great season. That's where we are this week. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Alongside Jacob Hankins, Spencer Hutchinson, I'm James Collier. It's the semifinals week of the playoff preview show here on Kool TV. Guys, first off, the elephant in the room, the biggest upset maybe of the entire year last week. Covcath goes to Boyle County and knocks off the Rebels, and what a major upset we see in that one.
Yeah, that upset was huge. I mean, nobody in their right mind would have thought Boyle County would walk out with a loss, but shows what happens when you play football in November. You never know.
Well, who is this guy above you, Spencer? Jacob coming in first. I mean, just drawing first blood. Usually you can't get him to say a word edgewise.
No, we need to build his confidence. He needs to be able to throw his opinion out there. Don't be afraid to ruffle some feathers. He's so scared he's going to hurt somebody's feelings. But James, it's another classic example of when you get too comfortable. I'm not taking anything away from Covington Catholic. That's a very good football team. They have a lot of great wins this year. But there is no reason Boyle County should have lost that game. It's kind of like what we said last week with Raceland. Essentially, you're playing against yourself, because it's tough to come out and beat those teams twice. And we saw that Friday night, especially in the first half.
Yeah, Raceland faced its first adversity of the postseason. They were the only team of all 6 classifications, though, that did not give up a single point in the round of 8. They go to the locker room up 7-0. They win 35-0. They put the running clock in play with about 3 minutes and some change left to go in the ballgame. They head off to Kentucky Country Day, a very familiar opponent. That's who they played last year. Campbellsville will go to Sayre. This has got to be a huge opportunity for Lexington Sayre. First ever time in the state semifinals in school history, and Chad Pennington has done just an amazing job of his team down there.
Yes, and I think that it's one of those things where you have to crawl before you can walk. And not only are they walking now, they're running. That was a program-changing win over Pikeville, regardless of the circumstances on the other sideline. Sayre beat Pikeville. That's the 2-time defending state champ. I mean, back-to-back state champ. Yeah, three-peat, sorry. So they eliminated them. And now, if you're Raceland, you're a little bit of a favorite going to Louisville, playing KCD. You're trying to take care of business on the field, but at the same time, you're looking in the rearview mirror. You're looking in the you got eyes in the back of your head at that Campbellsville and Sayre score. So you're kind of wondering, you want to take care of business, and especially if you get in a situation where the game is comfortable, you get in a 3 or 4 score game late in the second half, then you're really starting to pay attention to what's happening across the state.
Well, some other games across the state, Cal just absolutely railroading Central. Who saw that one coming?
Yeah.
Not me. That
Nobody.
makes me think that Central had some kids hurt. Cal maybe had some kids hurt the first time they played. But we've kind of seen that a little bit this year. Cal's not been the most consistent thing in the whole world this year. Lexington Christian put it all over them earlier in the year too. But it seems like when they really get the gears running, man, that they just hit a different gear. And I think we all agreed that the winner of that game would probably be your state champion favorite. But the way that Belfry and Russell game went, not to take anything away from Russell, but I was surprised by that. I thought Russell played a really good game down there, James. I actually went back and watched that film. Russell, had success running it right down their throat. They did a really good job through the air. They didn't turn the ball over a whole lot. That's a tough place to play at. I think Russell's got a lot of positive things to come out of that game, especially building into next year. But I question if Belfry can get on a bus and drive 6 hours and play a Union County team who is feeling pretty confident. They have a win over, I believe, Hart County, right? A team that really didn't get tested all year. And I kind of mentioned that several times on our shows. One game, they're going to get tested, and how do they react to it? Well, you see how they react to it. They're going to watch the game Friday night. So, I don't know, man. Is Belfry will have to, you hate to say they peaked too early, but Belfry will have to play better to win Friday night.
The question is that at what point does Belfry make that trip? Because do you want to jump on a bus early Friday morning, spend 6+ hours on a bus, and then go play football? I would imagine they're probably going to travel on Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. They'll leave. They'll probably have a team curfew, probably tell everybody to be at the school 4 or 5 o'clock, or maybe even 3 or 4 o'clock. Say, hey, get your dinner in with your family and be here at the school. We're going to take off. We might even get there at 11 or 12 o'clock. Wherever they're going to stay, at a hotel, I'm sure, or something. But you try to make that trip on Friday and then go and play a football game. That's the recipe for disaster.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they may be doing that, but I'm very against that. I don't know. So,
And here's the
you never
thing:
know.
there's some people out there that feel like that this is a huge thing to talk about. The fact that Belfry has to go from one side of the state to the other to go play, and it's a great big rigmarole. Listen, guys, you were down to your Final Four. You would drive to the other side of the country if you had to, if that meant you were still playing football this weekend. And I guarantee you, any team that's sitting at home this weekend eating turkey and watching football would say they would trade their place for him in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I know. But listen, if you look at 1A, though, I know that everybody likes how that matched up, but Raceland should be playing Sayre, man. Campbellsville and KCD should be playing. It's just a shorter trip for Raceland. Sayre should be at home, and it's a shorter trip for Campbellsville or wherever they're going to KCD, hypothetically. And Belfry would be playing who? Who else is left in 3A besides uh,
Cal and
Lex
Lexington
Cath.
Catholic.
So it'd be Belfry and Lexington Catholic. So I understand what people are saying. They wanted to throw out the East versus West, but it feels like, James, that they just made everybody travel longer because we still have 2 East teams and 2 West teams alive, uh, essentially in the Final Four of every class.
Well, and that's what you've got is you've got East versus West once you get into the round of 8, and then it just goes across the board. Oh, Spencer just dropped his computer.
Yeah.
Then you just go across the state. You get the top 4 that's left. But, it is what it is, and unfortunately, the state of Kentucky, when you go from one end to the other, it's 6.5, 7 hours to go all the way across.
Could you imagine if Ashland had to go to Paducah? I mean, hypothetically, could you imagine that? They might have to catch
That
a
would
flight
be
to St. Louis and drive the rest of the way. That might be faster for them. I mean, seriously, if you think about it, seriously, I'm against it. I just think it's another flaw of the RPI, James. I'm just not a fan
if
of
you're
it.
gonna have them play so far, at least meet halfway.
No, if you're going to get
Like
into this, let's get into it. If you're going to run an RPI, throw the districts out. There shouldn't be no stupid districts or regions. If you're going to have an RPI and have a true playoff system, throw that crap out. Teams shouldn't have to dictate who they play every week of the season. I hate the districts. I hate the region stuff. I feel like that if you're gonna do a true playoff, throw it out.
Well, and that's the thing is that you
yeah,
build your season all around RPI, 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 and then you get your first 2 weeks of the postseason, and it's district matchups. And it's like, why
That's
am I
stupid.
doing all of this time? Because as we've talked, and I know that there's been several coaches that's been very adamant about this. Why do they have to get stuck in playing in a very difficult sister district when you've got other districts on the other side that is like a piece of Swiss cheese?
Right.
And
Right.
the backside of it is that you can win your district. It holds nothing against the RPI once you get into the third round. You can literally have a team that you rolled in your district that you could have to go to their place because they have an RPI in the regular season, and it's just a ridiculous number.
it's
Yeah.
like
If you
it's like
think
last season with Raceland and Paris. I mean, wasn't there like a situation where
Yeah,
Raceland would
round
have to
3,
go to
if
Paris?
Paris would have beaten Sayre, Raceland, who running clocked Paris, who went undefeated in the district, would have gone to Paris in round 3.
yeah,
Who was
well,
undefeated at the point they got running clocked by Raceland?
Correct.
so that's what I'm saying though. If you're gonna if you really and if you're the eyes of the Kentucky High School Athletic Association and you implicated this RPI system, you truly believe it's doing something good. Why are you doing the inter district crap? Why are you playing these sister districts the first couple of games of playoffs? If you really believe it's a good system, why not have a cutoff out of the whole classification and then make your matchups that way? Make it a true bracket. If you're going to take 16 teams, why not have 16 play 1 or 2 play 15? If you're going to do it right.
Yeah.
I hate the districts. Throw them out. I think that's stupid, and the same goes for basketball.
Yeah, it's basketball's a little different animal. It's not as bad as football because you do have regions in basketball, which helps a little bit. But in football, you don't have that. And again, because it's the classifications, and I get that. But the RPI, it's either got to be all or nothing. This stuff of, okay, we use
Yeah.
East-West the third round, then we go across the state for the last one. It's
Stupid.
ridiculous.
And I know that Lexington Catholic, who they played first round. Well, they played West Carter. Who they played second round? Well, they played East Carter. Enough of that. Yeah, enough of that. You should throw the districts out. And truthfully, I'll be honest with you, this is going to ruffle some feathers. What has the district done that for Raceland here in the last 10 years? What has their district done other than lower their RPI?
Up until this season, all it has done is drag down their RPI.
Yeah. Other than that, what? And the same argument for East Carter baseball last year. They had to play. They played a gauntlet schedule, and then they went into their district, which was horrendous. And then by the way, first round of the region, you're playing Rowan County or somebody somebody that's really good. So I hate it. I hate the current format. I think that there's learning experiences that we can get from other states. I like the way Ohio does it. Wheelersburg and Ironton played at South Point. Well, we all knew Ironton was going to win, but a neutral site that's not too far away from everybody, I like that.
See, that's what I was kind of getting at. I think they pick a school not in their class and it's in the halfway point or close to halfway, and then the teams just drive.
Yeah, other than Paducah, though, James, nobody's real far away from Lexington. Yeah. And if you had to, you could meet them in Louisville, if you had to. No one's real far away other than like Paducah, Tillman, a couple of other schools, and that'd be a rare situation. But there's so many high schools in Lexington or that would facilitate a game like that. All of them are turf fields, essentially, except for, I believe, Sayre's not, are they?
No, they're
not. Are they a turf field?
They're natural.
Okay, so you know what I'm saying, though. That I think that we have not taken the steps as far as advancing and with the modern times of the playoffs. We're still very old school. There's other states that are driving cars while we ride horses. I guess is a good example for it. It's time to throw that stuff out. If you really think the RPI is a good thing, then you should throw the districts and regions out in football.
Well, and that's something that we can beat a dead horse to death until something happens, but it's no secret our thoughts about it. I don't even know that I would say that we're riding horses. I would say it's more like maybe a Barney Rubble car that we're
Fred Flintstone.
Yeah, Fred Flintstoning along. There's so many different elements. And here's the thing. The RPI is not a completely broken system. It's just how it's utilized. I don't think it works.
Well, and it needs tweaked. You scare you scare teams to play out of state. You scare teams to play lower 1A or 2A teams, especially teams like Raceland, Mayfield, Beechwood. You don't want to play those teams because if you get beat, it's going to look terrible in the RPI. And if you're a team that is trying to make a deep playoff run, you got a pretty good team. You don't want to play those. It's a good challenge as far as challenging your kids, getting them ready for the playoffs. But if you just so happen were to lose, you may be on the road the third round.
And that's the
I'm
challenge
very against
that
it.
Ironton or that Pikeville and Raceland face because trying to find teams. It's like Pikeville. They had to play Ironton this year to find that extra game. And honestly, even though they still lost that game, win or lose, it wasn't going to help them in it. That game probably hurt them in the RPI to the point to where it kept them on the road the entire postseason.
Yeah, and I've heard some, and I talked to a lot of people. And of course, I run Eastern Kentucky Athletics Group, and there's a lot of people that make comments. And there's some people who complain about the RPI, and I hate to say this, I hate to be this way, but the last thing you should be worried about is the RPI because you will never be in a position where that's implicated. The third round of the playoffs is something that maybe your school has done 2 or 3 times ever. So you shouldn't. There's bigger mountains to climb than the RPI. So as far as Raceland goes, I know what their motto is. It doesn't matter where they play at. They're kind of that stone cold Steve Austin. I'll fight anybody anywhere. Just bring them on, and we'll take them out back of the Westwood Boys Club if we have to. It's one of those things where we'll get on that yellow bus and put a football in the air and play. And that's the motto you got to have with the system that we have.
Yeah, I know Mike Sammons' quote this year is "Have bus will travel." That's kind of the mantra they had going into the postseason, and they were able to stay home through the first 3 rounds. They traveled to a very familiar place this Friday night when they go to KCD, and again, that's got to be a little bit of a help. Of now you have kind of the game plan of what worked last year. You can tweak that. set things up. You know what your travel plans look like. You know what the warm-up plans look like. You can really arrive with a very business-like atmosphere because you know all the wrinkles that's going to be there.
Right, but KCD is a different animal than they were last year, James. Last year, that team it had a lot of flaws, and I think their flaws were some of the strengths of Raceland. This year's team's pretty good. They've got a lot of speed. They've got some guys that can get to the next level on the line. Their linebackers read the field very well. Their secondary is not bad. Their offense is very good. They're going to score some. In my opinion, they will score some points. I think they will. The fact is, though, can Raceland's offense start the game with the ground running? And what I mean by that is, James, you called that game Friday night. Their offense looked terrible for 2.5 quarters. I mean, just really not blocked well up front. Give Hazard credit, man. They did a really good job of clogging up A, B, and C gap. But eventually it's one of those things where I guess Raceland's motto is keep pounding. Well, they did, and eventually the levee broke. Just fatigue and stuff, and bring a lot of kids. I think that's important to know. They didn't bring a whole bunch of kids, and Raceland has more depth. And another thing that played a big role, special teams. Special teams played a big role in that game. The wind was blowing, and I think that was a smart thing that Mike Sammons did. He deferred and took the ball and kicked it from right to left. The wind was coming in sideways like this, and Jacob, I'm not kidding. That may have cost Hazard the game. I'm not kidding when I say that, because what was it, 2 or 3 times, James, the kickoff returner was standing in place thinking the football was coming right to him, and he'd put a hand up and the ball would go into the end zone.
Sailed through his hands. 2 times it was a touchback. The other times he had to feel the ball and try to return it and got stuck inside of his own 15.
Yeah.
There was once where he slipped, wasn't there? Like
yes.
he just
that was
couldn't get his footing.
And cleanly there late and then slipped and fell down at the 10.
Yeah, well, you're not going to have to worry about the wind, I don't think, this week. But the cold,
it's just going to be the temperature.
Yeah, it's
the brutal cold. And James sits by. And I don't know if anybody. I know the Raceland people have, but we made the trip last year, and James has to sit in a crow's nest behind the visitor stand, so he's going to get the blunt of the wind. He's going to feel like he's on Lake Erie. Come Friday at about 11 o'clock.
Listen, I will look like the abdominal snowman whenever I get up in the crow's nest because of that wind. I know what it's like up there. Here's the big thing with KCD. It's no secret they are going to run the football. They are going to run against the top rushing defense in the state in Raceland. And I talked with Matt Jones earlier this week, and one of the things he talked about is he said, our strength is running the football, but at the same time, we're going to face a challenge that we probably have not faced all season long with what this team brings to the table.
And that front seven of Raceland, James, I've only watched them. That was the first time I actually watched them since they played Letcher Central. And they've only gotten better every week. This is not a case maybe in the past where they peaked too early. This is a team that's gotten better every week. And with Pikeville, and like I told Landon, with Pikeville being out, he feels like, there's a lot of pressure on him. Well, there's no pressure on you at all, because guess what? For 100 years, Raceland's played football, and they've never won a state title. You have a chance now to do something, because everybody else behind you has never done that. I feel like it's the reverse. I don't feel like there's any pressure on you guys. I feel like that, if you just go out there and take care of business, do what you do, don't get lazy, don't get too relaxed, you'll be fine.
Well, as I said, I talked with Matt Jones earlier this week, the head coach for the Bearcats. Let's hear from him and see what his thoughts are on this, and then we'll break things down from there. All right, joined with head coach from the KCD Bearcats, Matt Jones is in. Coach, first off, you've got to have one of the most unique names in the state of Kentucky. I think you're more liked than another Matt Jones that may be out there.
Hey, I don't know about that, James. I'm not from Kentucky. I'm from Georgia. And when I first moved here in 2011, everywhere I went, people say, "Are you him? Are you him?" And I said, "I don't even know who you guys are talking about. I don't think I'm him." But I've since learned since 2011 who Matt Jones is, and he does a great job. I even had a chance to meet him on a couple of occasions, and he thinks he's famous all over the country, but really he's only famous in Kentucky.
Well, that's for sure. He's famous in his own mind for sure.
Exactly. He's famous from Lexington to Louisville and out to Ashland, and that may be it. So.
Well, Coach, if we're talking at this point of the season, it's a good thing. That means you guys have had another stellar season. And much like Raceland this year, you guys have had a really good year with a totally different looking personnel of a roster.
Yeah, and that's just a testament to our kids and how hard they work. We couldn't be any more different this year than we were last year. But this group of kids, this group of juniors that we have, there's 22 of them, and they've been together since the 5th grade, and they're just tough and gritty kids. They play hard, and they've just kind of gotten better each week, and that's what we hoped for. We feel like we're a little ahead of our schedule. That was kind of in our mind, but we're certainly honored to be here.
You and Raceland both started the season the same way, a loss. And here you
Yes.
guys are sitting in that same position playing Black Friday football. How big is that?
It's just so important to be in the semifinals. You don't want to take any of it for granted. And kids, they don't have a ton of perspective on what's gonna be like the rest of their life and those things. But I think as coaches we do. And I think when you're in the 4th semifinal in 52 years of KCD football, you really feels special. And it's just a tribute to the kids and the parents and the coaches and everybody just working together.
When did you guys feel like that you had something rolling that was kind of pointing in this direction?
I don't know if we ever felt like that, James. I mean, we just tried to get a little better. Of course, the Campbellsville game was a huge stepping stone for our program as far as could we actually, beat one of the top 4 teams in the state or 5. I'm not sure who the top teams in the state are anymore this year, but I'll tell you what, they were awfully good. And for us to be able to play them down to the wire and win, that was a big statement game for us as far as what we could accomplish.
Speaking of your roster, having a lot of inexperience going into a game of that magnitude, how big was that for the confidence level as you guys move into this game Friday night?
Oh, yeah, I think it's huge. I mean, it was what we call our Bearcat Festival, which is really sort of like a homecoming. But, I mean, there was more people here. We had 65 little lower school cheerleaders, and I don't know how many people were here, 4,000 people. And, that was huge for them and their confidence and for us to be able to execute and win.
For you coming into this game Friday night, you've had a much different route than what Raceland has had. You guys have been in competitive football games. You had a first-round bye due to the way the brackets settled out, but you've had to grind your way through. Do you like having that because of the adversity has been there in every single game that you had to battle through?
Yeah, I mean, we have 2 overtime games this year. Campbellsville came down to the last play. Both our playoff games have been intensely competitive. And, that's different than what Raceland's had to do. But, of course, their schedule, arguably is tougher than ours, especially out of the gate. So I think it all balances out. I think I emailed you just talking about there's always so much talk about who everybody played in week 2 and week 1 and week 3. And, I don't know. Maybe it matters a lot and maybe it doesn't matter as much. But, we've definitely been in a lot of tight games. So if we get in one like that, if we're fortunate enough to, at least we have that experience.
Have you seen your team make that step forward each week through those type of games that you see with a different set of adversity each night that they've had to work across?
Yeah, I think if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And, we even talked to our kids about, well, you either win or you learn. So we feel like we learned those early games. We learned a lot about ourselves and what we had and what we didn't have. And, you also learn when you win in overtime. If it comes down to the last play and you got to go for 2 to win, then you learn you have a resilient team. And, that's important. I loved last year's team, and I'm not going to say anything negative about them. But I don't know how resilient they were. And I think that showed when we played, when it came down to the end and we were kind of getting smacked around a little. I think they were just happy to head on to Thanksgiving and do some Black Friday shopping. And this group seems a little more resilient.
Let's talk about your team. You're going to have 2 teams that's going to collide that both are set on running the football first. The other side is you've got to be able to stop that run. You guys have been a very run-heavy team this year. And, of course, out of the option, it starts with the quarterback. And Caden Long has done a phenomenal job for you this season.
Yeah, I'm so proud of Caden. His dad, Ed, is my defensive coordinator and assistant head coach. And Ed's been with me since 2012. So my very first year as the head coach. And so I've known Caden since 2012 when he came. So now he's 16. So what was he, 3 then? So I've known him since he was 3. And I can't tell you how many, family dinners and times together we've had. And, for his first year starting, he's done great. An option quarterback has a lot on him. We try to help him as much as we can, especially this first year. And again, that's what I mean by maybe a little ahead of schedule. when you're going to change to the option, and really try to run it and execute it, then man, you're putting a lot on that quarterback.
And
And
I know I was
and he's
talking with
done.
Coach Sammons yesterday, and one of the things he talked about was his ability to get to the edge so well. And if he gets to the edge, he has elusive speed.
He's fast, and he's never run the ball before, so we've never had him as like a runner or a running back. We didn't move him from running back. He's always been a quarterback, and it takes you got to learn how to run with the ball. He's fast, straight speed fast, but again, he's never been until this year. The situation where hey, you got to take the ball, make a guy miss, cover it up, fall forward, run the ball, and he's learning how to do that, and I'm proud of him because I think he probably fancied himself more of a passer.
You talk about an option quarterback and being able to run with a football, but the most difficult part of that is making a 3-yard pitch and getting that football out to the guy that's going, but as also making the correct read when that linebacker comes down or that DN comes down, and you've got to get rid of that football.
It's hard. It takes thousands of reps, and that's why we try to start as early as we could and work as much as we can. But the speed will be a little different Friday night. But again, it just takes the reps that it takes to try to get there. It's just like any other skill. And I hope we've practiced the right way to be able to play in a game like this against a defense like Raceland.
You talk about what he does in the backfield. How much has Parker been an element that has allowed him to just settle in because of what Parker's been able to do this year as well?
And he's another one who's learned. He was always a shotgun, get the ball 5 yards deep, run for daylight kind of guy. And it's not what we're asking him to do. And he's just learned and gotten better and better. He's popped a few here in the last few weeks that show us that he knows what he's doing. He sees what we're trying to tell him. And again, I mean, once you have, I don't know how many reps, thousands of reps at running it, then he started to get more comfortable. None of them are big guys. We don't have any big skill guys on our team. So, they're doing a lot of these, option teams you see have these 240-pound fullbacks that just blast everything in their path. And Parker's a little more skilled than that. But yeah, I've been proud of his growth. He and Caden have sort of grown together.
When you talk about a rushing team that goes through the option, you've got to have a good offensive line in front of them that give them that time to get the read and make that pitch. How big has the front been for you this year?
Yeah, I've been so proud of them. They've just, again, that's another group that's grown. They're doing things that we've never asked them to do. So, when we put the option in January, I was talking to a guy at a clinic, and he said, well, how much time you got there before you get fired? He's thinking to himself, he said, it's going to take you longer than a year to get it right. So if you don't feel like you have a year, I wouldn't do it. And that makes you have to take a deep breath and think like, man, do we really want to try this? And like I say, they've grown. I'm just proud of them.
You talk about Raceland's defense and what they bring to the table, the top team in the state in the rushing defense, giving up right at about 82 a game. They've held 5 of their last 6 opponents to 50 yards or less. What do you see on tape that is really concerning?
Yeah, they play hard. They play low. I mean, the Sammons kid's an absolute just monster over there. And, they're good. They've lost a lot, but you can't really tell it. Their scheme's the same. They play the same way. Their guys are low and fast and playing hard, and what Raceland does so well is they get you behind the chains. They get these teams in 2nd and 17 and 2nd and 12, and you're in trouble. I mean, it reminds me a lot of like an old Alabama, or even like Georgia, which was my team. But if they get you behind those chains, you might as well just get the punt team out there on 3rd down in case you get a bad snap or something, because you're not going to convert 2nd and 16 against Raceland.
How big is that going into this game of understanding you can't get behind the sticks on 1st down because of what they do defensively?
Yeah, you can't. If you do, you'll lose. And, that's something we've got to do. We've got to try to at least be, a positive in positive yardage. And a lot of people have been trying that, of course. But hopefully when you try it in a unique way.
You talked about Raceland's quarterback, Jake Waller, and you compared him a lot to Caden. You said their body sizes are similar. A lot of the things they do are very similar as well. What do you see that he has done, especially in his progression through the season?
I heard Coach Sammons say earlier, and I hadn't listened to him in a few weeks. I should go back and listen to your interviews. But I heard him say that the team, he won the team. And you could tell that the kids believe in him, just like they believe in Cade. And that was one of the comparisons I was making, that he seems like a guy that's a gamer. He's tough. He's just a sophomore. But man, he doesn't play like one. And when they need a play, he makes one. He scrambles. He can throw it. His guys catch it when he throws it to him. He throws a catchable ball. Yeah, there's just a lot of similarities between the two kids. And, he's different than the quarterback that you guys had last year. But man, he's making the plays that need to be made to win.
Behind him, he's got a stable of running backs, and the depth has certainly been something that Raceland has leaned on a lot this year. Different styles of running backs with every guy that enters the football game.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge advantage to have. You got 6, 7 guys that can run the ball. There's no real drop off there. You got the big guys that can run over you, and you got the smaller guys that can play in space. And it seems like every week there's a new guy sort of stepping up, and that's the sign of a good program, a well coached team.
Coach, what's the biggest thing that you put on the board this week going into this football game that your team, if they want to come out with a victory, this is the one thing that they have to do more than anything else?
Well, I mean, it's late November in Kentucky, so you better run the ball and you better stop the run. And that's just the way it is. And, we've been in this enough to know now. We played Paintsville when they were on top. We played Raceland when they were on top. We played these what we call the big, scary Eastern Kentucky teams, and we know what they're going to do. I mean, they're not going to make a big they're not going to trick anybody. So you got to run the ball and you better stop them running. And Raceland, their screen game's an extension of their run game. They do a great job there too. So, for us, it's just about improvement. It's just about trying to get better every week. And that's been good. That's been a good philosophy for us, focusing on ourselves more so than a bunch of bulletin board stuff.
Coach, it looks like it's going to be a clear night, a cold night, but it should be a good night for semifinal football at your place. But a beautiful facility you guys have there. We're looking forward to seeing you down there on Friday night.
James, thank you so much. You guys travel safe, and we look forward to seeing you here at it's Monahan Field, but we call it the Mo. So we're excited to host you guys at the Mo. You guys are first class all the way through there at Raceland, and your show is awesome.
Coach, greatly appreciate it. We'll talk to you Friday night.
All right, thanks, James. Bye-bye.
All right, that was Coach Matt Jones from the Bearcats of KCD. And, guys, when you look at what they do, they've got a really good quarterback. And if you're going to run an option system, you have to have a quarterback that, one, understands what to do with the football and has to make the most difficult move on the football field. That's a 3-yard pitch.
Yeah, Coach Jones said that it's a play that takes 1,000 times. I mean, and it's still not perfect after those 1,000. I mean, it's one of the hardest things to do. You're moving forward, and you're trying to make the read. It's just not very easy to do, and you have to be smart.
How much of the mind games play a role in this game, James? Is Raceland come in comfortable because they kind of blew the doors off KCD last year? Does KCD coming in remembering a lot of those kids were on the team last year, remembering what happened to them in the last semi-state matchup? I think it's one of those things where Raceland is going to have to be disciplined more than they have been all year. I think that their safeties do a really good job of coming downhill and kind of filling those gaps. Their outside linebackers have played very good. Their inside linebackers will be very good. And I hate to say this again, it's a beating a dead horse. But if you're KCD, you have to find a way to block Lyndon Sammons, because if you do not, it'll be the end of your season. Somehow, some way, if you have to double team him the whole game, you'll have to do it.
Coach Jones referred to him by name, not number. He said the Sammons
by
kid
name.
is a handful. He called him by name, and that I mean, and he deserves that. He's third in the state in sacks, and he deserves a double team just about every single time the ball goes up. The problem of it is when you do that, you've got David Headley on the other side, who is a really good sophomore defensive end. Chris Spradlin there at the nose, and then those 4 linebackers behind them just run free.
They do, and I think it's important for Raceland to get off to a good start. I think that they're going to have to stack the box, and there's going to be a lot of the times where their corners are going to be one-on-one. I think that the Raceland hasn't had to do that since back maybe against LCA. They probably had to do that some, and maybe against Ashland. So, and I'll tell you a kid that played very well Friday night that we don't mention a whole lot, the McKee kid. Very underrated player. I mean, he's a very, very good defensive player. And he's kind of got that no-fly zone going on over there. I don't think I've seen a pass be completed on his side of the field all year long.
So watching the film from Newport, the big thing that I saw in that is number 10, who's their main wide receiver, Bates Miller. Or I'm sorry, Miller Bates, my mistake. Flip his name around. That's who McKee's going to draw. And everybody else is going to be in the box. And there would be times that Newport would literally have 8, 9 guys in the box every single snap, just trying to fill every one of those gaps. But the thing is that if you miss one assignment, it's to the other way for 6.
Yeah, Raceland ran a lot of cover 3, base cover 3, one high safety against Hazard that I saw. And, because I don't think that they were afraid. It may have been because of the weather. They were never afraid of the ball going downfield. Do you play the same way against KCD? I think it depends on how well they're running the football. I think you start out with your base defense. You just run your base defense. And then if you need to adjust, you adjust from there. But I don't think Raceland's had to really change a whole lot, James, from their base defense. Maybe small tweaks here and there, but mostly they've been fundamentally sound, and they got very smart kids in the secondary. The linebackers don't let drag routes just cross their face. They do a really good job, and I think that's a tremendous challenge for KCD Friday night.
I think one of the players that's going to be a big key in this game, talking about the defensive side, is going to be the safety Jonah Arnett. Because you're not going to have to play him in a high safety look. You're going to be able to get him down in the box. You're going to be able to get him on the edge. You're going to see Jonah Arnett do something that he's not been able to do this year, and that's really run free into the backfield.
Yeah, and that's a dangerous game, though, because what if they do a counter? And then you're requiring one high safety, which will either be Landon or it'll be Jonah, to make an open field tackle if nobody at the front 7 or front 8 get him. And I mean, I'm not saying they're not capable of doing that, but asking a high school kid to tackle a kid in open field, yes, 50-50, James. You know it. You've seen it 1,000 times. I think Jonah will be just outside the box. I think Raceland will consistently put 8 or 9 guys in the box, but I think that he is kind of just the definition of a free safety. That's a good way to put it.
He's just gonna kind of a short or free roaming, but not really doing whatever he wants. He's just gonna
because you have to have.
They're gonna have speed. He's gonna be outside the box, but free roaming outside of that box.
Yeah, you kind of eliminate the word safeties when you're putting them up in the box, because if the ball carrier gets behind you, there's no safety.
There's no safety.
Well, touchdown for the other thing too. You have to account for Caden Long, the quarterback, because he can get the edge and he has really good speed. Coach Jones spoke about him. Coach Sammons talked about him as well, about how well he gets the edge, and when he gets the edge, he can get in the open field. So you may actually use that high safety as your spy on the quarterback, reading that option from that point.
Yeah, but if you do that, though, you're basically going to have to revert to cover 1. It'll be a man coverage type thing, which that's fine if they don't run mesh. If they run mesh, you might be in a little bit of trouble, because I don't think a lot of teams have thrown the mesh routes at Raceland. Maybe they have, but like I said, I haven't watched them a whole bunch. I don't think Hazard did it at all.
A lot of the stuff that I've seen from KCD, it's been a lot of bubble screens or just a go route. That's not really been anything crossing. They only have the one wide receiver. They're going to run double wing, tailback, and movement. There's pre-snap movement every play.
Yeah, don't be surprised to see a wrinkle in that, James, because I'm sure that they watched the film of Hazard, who tried similar things. Hazard was very jailbreak screen happy in the first half, and it was just never there. Raceland's corners, like I said, are super physical. Their safeties come downhill like linebackers. And then when you got guys like Logan Lockwood on the outside who could blindside you and take your head off, that's a challenge, James. I think KCD will, and I think same goes for Raceland. I think that they'll have to change the way they call the game this week compared to last week.
Yeah, this KCD team has 2 receivers. I mean, they have 2 receivers in triple digits receiving yards.
He's getting there, James. He's ruffling some feathers.
I mean, they do. If you look at their stats, they have 2 kids that one has 210 and another one has 242. And then the rest is rushing.
You see, Jacob, how easy it is to ruffle feathers?
Now, let me ruffle some more feathers for you here, Jacob. 23 is not a receiver. He's a wing guy. So he's a guy that works off of a wing in motion, and they swing him a lot. 10 is the guy that'll work outside. So
your leading receiver is a wing guy.
Yes. But that's what you get from an option offense.
Yeah, you don't get much. It's kind of like Army. I mean,
now,
send
is
the
this
wing
a
guy in
flex
motion.
bone? What kind of, is this a true
Yeah,
triple
what kind of
option? Is
option
this a
is?
flex bone? What is this? Because I haven't watched any tape on him.
No, this was almost like a true. A lot of times when I saw it lined up, it was almost like a true wing T. Double wing, fullback, quarterback under center. Then sometimes they would put an attached tight end and then one wing and go up from there. I mean, there's a lot of
Wonder if they
different
pull
movements
guards.
that they do pre-snap.
Yeah, wing T, and Ivan McGlone was the wing T master, the wing T godfather, essentially. And I remember coming up to the line, our offensive line, when we were there, I played center. And I remember our offensive line was so good that I would look at the nose guard and I would say, it's coming right here. I promise you, it's coming right here. And there was just nothing they could do about it because I knew I was going to tango down. And what a tango down means, it's a double team. It's me and the guard. And he had no chance no matter what. So.
Well, I talked
But
with Mike Sammons this week as well. Let's talk with him and let's see what he's got to say in this matchup, and then we'll break down his comments as well. Back on the football preview show, joined now with Raceland Coach Mike Sammons. Coach, another Black Friday, another game on Black Friday for you guys. It's got to be a good feeling around the program.
Yeah, I mean, you never want to take things for granted. I think everybody around here is thankful and grateful to be doing this again. Obviously, as the program has evolved and developed and stuff, there become some expectations. But at the same time, you got to be humble and understand how you get to where you're at. And so that's one snap at a time. And that's why we're here today, to try to get better today and every step along the way, and try to take this thing just as far as we can. Obviously, we're blessed to have 7 more days together, and hopefully we can earn 7 more on Friday.
This was a team coming in with a lot of unknowns because of so many people that graduated last year. You had a lot of new faces, and many people at the beginning of the season never thought this was probably a possibility.
Yeah, those, what do they call that, rat poison, that stuff outside our locker room, we really don't pay attention to. I can tell you, the last 2 years we have had graduation. We're going to have graduation this year. That hurts every year. But those people in that locker room believed in it, and that's what matters. And so we felt like we had really, really good football players. Our football players needed some experience. They weren't young. They weren't lacking talent. They just needed experience. And so we got experience early against some really, really good opponents. Credit to our guys. They came through some adverse moments and stuck together and really bought into what we were teaching and trying to sell as a coaching staff as far as, sticking together. This will prepare us for the playoffs, all those type of things that go into the long run. I mean, this is a 15-week season with, if you make it that far, with a bye week and 2 scrimmages. So this has been going for some time. And so we have really been able to move forward every week. And I think that's what it's really about. As far as, people not believing in us or whatever, that's part of the story, right? And there's joy in the journey, and we're just really excited to move on.
You had to face some adversity for the first time in the postseason last week. 7-0 at the half, but you guys found a way against a lot of crazy weather, and it was the kicking game that really got you guys going.
Yeah, our guys really just kept pounding. We're trying to get to the next play, and that's the most important play as our program's kind of, held on. And, the third quarter kind of flipped on a punt and had the weather become an issue there, and we were trying to play the weather in our favor, and it did. But our kids are really resilient. In the first half, we had a chance to maybe put a couple extra, touchdowns on the board and got in the orange zone right down here, I remember, and had a penalty and just some inopportune things. But listen, it's the playoffs. It's not supposed to be easy. These other teams prepare and practice hard. They have a lot of pride. I mean, Hazard state champ just in the last 10 years. So, again, everybody works and everybody wants to advance. When you get your backs against the wall, there's a lot that goes into it. And so I was really proud of our guys, how we came out in the second half and really exerted our will and really felt like the body blows really, took effect over the course of 48 minutes.
Yeah, that was a big thing you could tell there in the second half. It seemed like that some of those runs that just wasn't there in the first half really started to show up in the second.
Yeah, so a 1 or 2 yard gain, maybe in the second quarter it becomes a 3 or 4 yard gain. Maybe halfway through the third quarter it's a 6 or 7 yard gain. And then we start having some double-digit yard gains, and eventually there were 2 or 3 minutes ago we rip off a 60-plus yard. So it's just it's a culmination. It's not one play or one run or one block that leads to that. It's a culmination of all of them, and so that's kind of who we are. That's what we're about. That's how we're built. That's how our kids are programmed. That's how our kids come up through our program, through all the various levels. And again, when the adversity hits, you always wonder how they're going to react. But again, we try to put them in those moments so we know exactly what we got. And listen, there's nobody in the locker room surprised what happened in the second half on Friday.
you've been always a big component of to be successful this late in the season. You got to be able to run the football, and you have to be able to stop the run. You guys have been superb in stopping the run all season long. What's been the key of what those guys up front have been able to do?
Yeah, so our defense has been phenomenal. I think our preparation is good. I think our attention to detail is good. But our defensive line is where I would start at. I told you, media in the preseason, I feel like that was our best position group. I did feel like some other position groups could catch them. I was wrong. They haven't. Our defensive line has been just outstanding. I think their tenacity is probably maybe the key element there. I mean, yeah, we have some good size, but we don't have 285-pound defensive ends. We don't have guys that are necessarily going to play Division I football. We got a bunch of guys that really rally to the ball. Lyndon there has some experience. And then I think they really feed off each other and really compete with each other. And those guys are a quiet group. They really, really they're always about their business. They're not really cut up. They don't really cut up. They want to know what we're doing on Friday. They want to know what the game plan is on Friday. They want to practice it, 2 or 3 times, a few times through the week, and then they'll be ready to go. And that's kind of how they're built. Another thing I would say about our defensive line, like Lyndon, for example, and David, the two strongest kids on the team, pound for pound and overall strength, just really bought into the weight room. And I think that's why they've been able to play through, 13 games now, take on the run, and stay healthy. And so that's been a big part of it as well.
On the other side, your running back stable has been depth by committee, and you get a different look from each type of player that rolls out there, from a speed back to just a guy that is like a bowling ball running downhill.
Yeah, power in numbers, right? I mean, that's kind of how we're built. Maybe we mix our pitches, and maybe one guy's really good one night and the other guy's not. Maybe it's his night, maybe it's not. That's just kind of how we're built. That's kind of who our guys are. I think this is one of the most unselfish groups, and our program has kind of been theming that way. Look, keep the selfishness out of here, and we've done a really good job of that as our leaders for the past several years. And I think that's why you kind of seen our program grow. And those guys, they just pull for each other, whether it's, like you say, a powerful back trying to run downhill an A or B gap, or maybe we bring a receiver in to running back and he tries to get to the edge, whatever it may be. Those guys really pull for each other and complement each other, I do believe. A lot of those guys play defense. So one of the reasons why it's a mix and match is also because those guys are playing defense. It's not really like we have a primary ball carrier. We call a play and whoever's lined up there is getting the ball. And I think there's some value in that.
Let's talk about your opponent, KCD, a familiar opponent, but much like you guys, a large graduating class. And I talked with Coach Jones, and he said two same names, but totally different look programs.
Yeah, Coach Jones done an outstanding job down there. He's been there. I think he's been there longer than I've been here, at least as a head coach, and done a really good job, really grown that program. I know they had a big graduating class a year ago, and to be back in the same game both programs were is outstanding for both of us. And so, the work's not done or the job's not finished or not only satisfied, but it's still outstanding to be playing on Black Friday. And so they're a totally different team in the way they attack you. They're really a heavy run team, 90-some% plus run to pass, and running the flex bone, which is a lot different look than a year ago. So just a total different animal for us to prepare for. Obviously, we're a little different. We got different names, different people, and attack different ways. But at the end of the day, both of us are going to go out there and compete really hard on Friday. Both of our teams are really going to do what they can to try to give our teams the best chance to advance, and that's what it's all about.
How big was it to see some of that type of offense that Hazard ran there, the football game on the regional championship game, to kind of get you ready for what you're going to see from KCD?
Yeah, I thought Hazard's game plan was effective, particularly with the weather. It kind of kept them in the game early on, trying to really run it up in there and get a few yards here, a few yards there, and trying to churn out some first downs and try to keep our offense off the field. And I'm sure they was hoping somewhere in there to bust a big one or whatever and really try to make the game short. And I think that's what happens in the playoffs. Sometimes those games get short. But our team has been attacked in a variety of ways. We've been attacked in the air. We've been attacked on the edge. We've been attacked in A and B gaps. We've been attacked by physical players, speed players, a mix of both, from the quarterback position, all those different type of things. And so over the course of 13 games, you feel like you probably expose your team to about everything. So now you got to work on the finer details for this game plan and make sure that our run defense continues to put us in good opportunity to get stops.
When a team runs flex bone, a lot of times the quarterback is a big piece of that because they can work with their feet. KCD's quarterback can do that.
Yeah, he's special with his feet. Really, what I say about him is I think he's an explosive big play guy. It's like Friday against Newport. After Newport, I think, took the lead, he goes right back and hits a 30-plus yard touchdown run on an option where he keeps the ball. And so actually going to his left at that. So I think just the ability you have to be laser focused and you got to be disciplined on your keys. And the problem is with your eyes. You got to have good eyes. You can't be bad with your eyes, and that's really important, and especially over the course of 48 minutes. And their fullback is their workhorse. He's going to carry the ball, 3 out of 5 plays, and he's going to try to churn, first downs for them. And we got to try to get them in a situation where they're uncomfortable, try to get them behind the sticks a little bit, maybe try to get some negative plays against them, hopefully create some turnovers and try to work in our advantage.
You look at the ability to go to a place you played last year. How much does that help you setting up the schedule of knowing exactly what to expect when you leave here to when you get to Louisville?
Yeah, logistically, this is a good thing for us. We kind of know the way there, so to speak, and how to get there. And once we get there, how things are going to flow and where to park the bus and where we're going to get dressed at, where we're going to have our meeting time at, and how we're going to take the field and all that. And so that's nice, to have some familiarity and play an opponent. I think we have played this team in the Kentucky Country Day. They used to have a different name in the past before last year in the playoffs. But, play them 2 years in a row at their place and helps us out to know, again, exactly how to flow and get there. But, again, once you walk on the white lines, it's a totally different attack both sides.
Coach, good luck. We'll talk to you on a Friday night.
Thanks, James. Appreciate it.
All right, that was Raceland head coach Mike Sammons. And, one of the things I asked both coaches, I said, last year you played this game, but the personnel is pretty much different on both sides of the ball for both teams. And that was something that both of them said. Mike said it best. Last year is just that. It's last year. It's a new segment, a new chapter, a new set of players.
Don't be surprised, James, if they kind of put Lyndon Sammons on the stronger side of the line. And what I mean by that is if they come out with a tight end on the right side and just have guard and tackle on one side, don't be surprised if Lyndon flips and causes that offensive line a lot of problems. Because I know that during practice this week, and that coach even said it, they're really keying in on him. Well, it's hard to key on him when you don't know where he's at. And so when you're doing things like that in a pre-snap, it's going to confuse them. And what happens when confusion happens with high school kids? Turnovers happen. And if I'm Coach Mike Sammons, I'm trying to make Lyndon Sammons invisible. and that means putting him where I think the ball is going to be carried. I almost would put him in the pre-snap where the linebackers are at, and then I would say left or right. Until they beat me with a counter, that's what I would do.
Now, last year, one of the big things that decided the way that game played were turnovers. KCD had a couple of costly turnovers there in the first half. Raceland really took advantage of those. But Raceland didn't land a punch in the first quarter. They landed haymakers. And, this game was in control before halftime.
Yeah, look at Tiger Hankins setting the mood in the background. You got a nice candle lit for us and everything for the show.
I guarantee Taylor.
No,
Taylor
turnovers played a huge role. The turnovers.
Yeah, she was like, you need to put a candle up or something.
Man, my goodness. Whew. All right. Well, I think James, that's what it's going to come down to. Though there's going to be there's going to be a turnover in the game that changes the game. And what I mean by that is fumbled snap on my own 20. It could be Raceland. It could be KCD. There'll be a turnover that dictates how the game's played the rest of the game. I think it may happen early too. And how does that change the way you call plays? I think it's fair. It's a fair statement to say that Raceland was conservative with their play calling, in particular in the first half against Hazard. They almost were waiting for Hazard to self-destruct. And especially go back to what I was saying, the way the wind was going, I think that may have not, obviously it didn't win Raceland the game, but that presented more challenges than what people think.
The other side of this game too is that Jake Waller didn't win you that football game. He didn't lose that football game either. And a lot can be said for both of those wordings because a sophomore in his biggest game that he's ever played in for their postseason life to continue, and he was very efficient with what he did with the football.
Yeah, he didn't force the football at all. I'd like to see him tuck it and run a little bit. And I think he did a really good job of lowering his shoulder. There's going to be plays where it's 3rd and 5 and there's nobody open downfield and you're just going to have to tuck it and run. And let me tell you something. If you don't lower that shoulder, it's a bad look on the sideline, not from the coaches, from your teammates. It sends a message when a quarterback says, hey, you know what? I'm not scared to get hurt. I'll take a linebacker, one of those big defensive lineman head on if it means I might get a first down. I think he's got good speed. There was a couple of times where he could have forced that football, and he just didn't, James. He just didn't. I think that speaks to the maturity of him. In one play in particular, I remember he rolled out to his right and extended the play a long time, and never really tried to force it downfield. And I think that they'll need that to continue to win Friday night.
The big thing that you get from this team as well is its depth. And we talked about this, Spitzer, during the broadcast with Hazard, the numbers that Hazard had as compared to what Raceland had. Jacob, the comment that Coach Jones talked about, they've got a lot of guys that they're going to roll out there from the running back stable, and every single one of them have a different style of running.
Yeah, there's about 6 or 7 of them that you never know who's going to be back there, and it's a different back with each one of them. I mean, you have guys that can run over you, guys that can run past you, and it's just
But what
take
does
your
that
poison.
mean, though, James? What's the bigger picture when he says something like that? That means he's got, you usually only put 2 running backs on the field at the same time. That means he's got a couple sitting over on the sideline. What's the temperature supposed to be Friday night? 25? Cold hands, son. That means the ball's harder to hold on to. May be an opportunity for Raceland.
That just means fresh legs coming in, though.
There's no such thing as fresh legs in 25-degree weather. The whole game slows down in 25-degree weather.
Well, and that's the thing in this game here. When you have 2 teams that are going to run the football, you're going to shorten your possessions immensely in this football game. You may only touch the football 3 times in each half, depending on how things play out.
Yeah, and I think that works for both teams because that's less of a beating you have to take in this type of weather. I mean, because like Spencer said, kind of made me eat my words, there's no such thing as fresh legs. So getting hit and rolled up on and all that constantly is a tear on the body.
Well, and I think that a lot of people don't understand how much the game slows down when the temperature's that low. It's far, far off from that August temperature where the game happened real fast. Everybody's cramping up. Listen, if you cramp up Friday night, you just ain't drinking enough water, okay? Because there should be no reason for that. The game slows down, and I think it favors, and I don't know the status on Stiltner. It favors the power back scheme. And what I mean by the power back scheme, the T formation, the wing T formation, it favors those. And this might be one of those old fashioned games, James, where the game's won at the line of scrimmage. And Raceland's offensive line, man, it took him a while to wake up. And I think Mike Sammons got after him at halftime and said, hey, guys, we can go home right now if you don't want to get to that next level. Raceland will have to hit the ground running if they are going to play at Kroger Field, period.
And I don't know if it was so much as they had to wake up. The fact of it is they were running into 8-9 guy boxes, and it was third quarter, fourth quarter when you started seeing this. And Coach Sammons said this in his interview. Those 1- and 2-yard runs in the first and second quarter became 5 and 6 yards in the third quarter, and then became 10 and 15 and 20, and then finally a 64-yard run there in the fourth.
Yeah, and another thing that worries me, and this is no shot at anybody, for Raceland is how conservative are you with your play calling to be in the game? Are you content with just kind of waiting to see what the opponent does? Do they give you a turnover? Do they drive down the field real quick and score a touchdown? Does that dictate how you call plays? If I'm Raceland, I'm calling plays like the same way I did against LCA. I ain't got nothing to lose. Nobody expected me to be here anyways, and we've never won a state title. So I have nothing to lose, period.
I think at this point, a zebra is what it is. It's not changing its stripes. You're not going to go in and make a new offensive scheme, a new defensive scheme. You're not going to be a run-heavy team and all of a sudden come out this week and go spread and throw it all over the football field.
No, but I think that they're going to have to give Jonah Arnett more touches, not just out of the T formation. I think you're going to have to put him in motion a lot. I think that, kind of that what made Blake Hester and Keontae Pittman so deadly was those jet sweeps. As soon as they got the edge, buddy, forget it. If you weren't right there at the line of scrimmage to get them, it was a touchdown. Nobody in the area was catching them.
The thing with Arnett, though, is, and we saw this especially in the fourth quarter, when you get him out with blockers in front, including Landon Bloss, Shanna Marushi, pulling a guard with them, and you get him a crease, All he needs is a small hole to slither through, and he's going to break it for a big one.
Well, he has really good field vision, and so does Marucci, so does Stiltner, and so does Waller. A lot of people, Waller's a kid that could hurt you with his legs. We saw that in particular at Paris. He's not a slow kid at all. So I'm interested to see how that is. I know that there's a lot of people on Twitter who kind of put these spreads out. I think that I saw one that said Raceland was a 10-point favorite.
Yeah, that's what I saw as well.
That's not true. That's not true because Raceland won't kick a field goal. So it'll either
they
be
kicked one that they made this year. They've tried 3,
Yeah.
they've made 1.
Yeah, they ain't gonna kick no field goals. You not in 20-degree weather. We ain't kicking field goals down there. Them balls feel like that they're frozen.
It's like a concrete.
I think that's an important key though, guys. Listen, all of us, including the people down in KCD, have not felt temperatures like that this year. They have not practiced in temperatures like that this year. And then you expect them to go out and play in a semi-state championship game in a temperature like this. I think that that's a huge role. I think that plays a key factor.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised to see multiple fumbles.
You're not going to see a game to where, like in the NFL, they bring the balls out of the warmer. These are nice, warm footballs.
No.
Yeah.
These balls are sitting around, and the longer they sit, the harder they get.
Yeah.
Right, and I think the temperature plays a role. What happens when a ball carrier's going downfield or getting ready to cut up in the hole, and one of those helmets hits right on where you got the ball kind of a split right there, the finger split? What happens when the helmet hits the 20-degree weather? It feels like your hand's broken. Do you drop the football? I think fumbles. We'll talk about this next week on the live show. If I had to say a key, I think fumbles play a big role in who wins Friday night.
Oh, I totally agree. I think a turnover either way early could set the tone for this football game.
Back in 2000, mid-2000s, my Russell team, we were playing out at Belfry, and it had snowed during the day. Well, at nighttime, it had melted. At nighttime, it froze back on the field. And I think we kicked off at 14 degrees. I'm not even kidding. There's a lot of people that watch this that'll know what I'm talking about. And Belfry used to wear these old school jerseys that were like practice jerseys. They had the holes in them. You know what I'm talking about? Well, I had forgotten my gloves that game. What a game to forget your gloves. And so they used to have a big running back named Ivan Lee. And he was a stud. He came through the A-gap one time, and I was playing those, and I grabbed a hold of his jersey, and it ripped out of my hand. I thought he took my arm with me. I mean, it took every bit of skin off. It took every bit of skin off my hand. I'm telling you.
Yeah, those old mesh-like jerseys, man. Those things were like 80 grit sandpaper.
Yeah.
Oh, you could. I mean, I'm
like a cheese grater.
Oh boy, there was. You look at your hand like, how is it still there? I mean, it had to take the top layer of skin off. Oh my goodness.
Right,
I think this game is won off a turnover.
Go ahead, Jacob.
So I think this game is won off of a turnover. I think there's a turnover late that costs whoever loses.
I'll go a step further. I don't know if it'll be late or not. I think what you mean by costly is at your own 20, at your own 15, maybe even on a kickoff.
Prevents you from scoring.
A muffed punt, a blocked punt, something like that is going to happen in this game, whether it's KCD or Raceland.
A long drive that takes 15 plays, you're inside your 10, and then all of a sudden you fumble.
Another thing to mention, though, go ahead.
Go ahead, you're fine.
Another thing to mention is these long snappers have not snapped the ball in this weather either yet, James. I think that's important to note too. You always want to undersnap before you oversnap. Just remember that as advice. You can always run up and you can kind of deal with the situation as best you can. If it goes over the punter's head, you're in really bad shape.
Yeah, without a doubt. We're looking at in the 20s for temperature at kickoff Friday night down in Louisville. And that's what it's going to be pretty much across the state. Now, it's going to be dry. We're not going to see the crazy winds we saw last week, but it is going to be colder.
Yeah, I'll have my buddy heater. I'm stopping at wherever Melissa's stopping.
I'll have my heated jacket, and we'll be fine.
You're making the trip, Tiger?
Yeah, I'm making the trip.
Tiger's going down with us, man.
Oh, my goodness. We're stopping somewhere to go shopping, so I may actually act like a normal human being and buy a pair of gloves and socks. So we'll
you're
just
probably
see.
going to the outlet mall there at Simpsonville with all the other 50 million
yes,
people.
That's exactly where we're going.
Yeah, there you go.
And the only reason we're going there, and the only reason why I'm excited to go there is because they have a Culver's, period.
Well,
you're going to get ice cream in 25-degree weather.
No, Culver's, the Butterburgers.
Culver's has ice cream, doesn't it?
I don't know. I'm not a big ice cream guy, anyways. I don't.
He doesn't put me in mind of an ice cream guy.
No, unless it's
All
mint
right.
chocolate chip, it ain't for me, buddy.
Let's make some picks. We're going to go from all 6 classifications. Let's start in Class 6A. So, Frederick Douglass and Trinity, Great Crossing and Ryle. Tiger Hankins, who you got for the 6A state championship?
Look at his little Christmas tree.
Taylor.
Trinity. No, that's been up since last Christmas.
I'm surprised it doesn't have like tiger claws or something on it. All right, Tiger,
I think Trinity
taking
wins.
Trinity. Spencer, who you got?
I'm going Shamrocks as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be Trinity and Ryle.
But I am
in the 6A state.
Yeah, I am going to make a case for Ryle. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they won it, but it's Trinity's to lose.
Oh, we're picking the state champion?
No.
Yeah.
Just the state championship game, not the state champion. That's next week.
Yeah. Jacob,
okay.
Quit that now.
Well, still, Trinity and Ryle is my picks.
Okay.
I think Ryle wins too, James.
All right, Class 5A, Bowling Green, South Warren. A very closely related game, by the way, because of distance between the two.
7 miles.
The other one,
7
Highlands
miles.
and Cooper, very closely related. Jacob, who do you got in those 2 games?
Just because I know the names, I'm going to go Bowling Green and Highlands.
Not me. I'm actually going to flip both of them. I think Cooper's been the best team in 5A all season long, and I think they continue to be the best team in 5A. They'll be in the state championship, but they're going to play South Warren. That's going to be I think South Warren, didn't they win it a couple of years ago, James?
Yeah, they did.
Maybe even last year. Yeah.
Well,
so
I'm going to split the difference
man.
between the two of you. I'm with Spencer. Cooper has been the best team in 5A all season long. And I think they're going to play Bowling Green, though, on the other side of that. All right, Class 4A. The Purples, you got to love them. Corbin goes to Paducah. And then in the other 4A game, Covcath at Franklin County. Jacob?
Covcath, especially coming off that big upset win. And I don't know. Probably I'm going to take Corbin because of the elements, because of the cold.
No way.
I don't think being able to throw the ball is going to be as effective.
Well,
that
hurts
you never
Corbin.
have to go to Western Kentucky. You'll never make it past the
Then that hurts Corbin then, Jacob, because they'll have the best quarterback in that game. Give me Franklin County, super underrated team that's just kind of over there in the corner nobody really talks about. Give me Franklin County and Paducah Tillman.
That's who I'm going with as well. I felt like Franklin County was probably the team that was just sitting over there hoping that Paducah Tillman and Boyle County just beat on each other, and they were going to pick up the pieces. They kind of got some help. I think Franklin County's a sneaky good team there in 4A.
Yeah, oh yeah.
All right, Class 3A, Lexcath and Cal, and then Belfry makes the 9,000-mile trip across the state over to Union County. Jacob, who you got?
Lexcath and Union County.
Not me. I think Belfry, this weather plays in the.
No. Sorry. Cal and Union County. I got my words
This
mixed
weather
up.
plays in Belfry's hands, James. They see snow before anybody does across the state. It's just naturally cold down there. Their stadium sits between 2 mountains. They're not afraid of nothing cold. They don't matter where they play at. They're going to go across the state and they're going to punch their ticket to Kroger Field. Unfortunately, they're going to play Cal, who is just, as soon as the playoffs come, flip the switch. Here they come. So Cal and Belfry.
I'm going Belfry and Cal as well. I think that even though the long trip across there, Coach Haywood said, hey, we've got a problem of trying to figure things out, but in between watching film, we'll figure out how to get our team across the state. We'll make it work.
Yeah.
All right, Class 2A, LCA at Beechwood and Somerset, who got the win over Prestonsburg last week. The Briar Jumpers go to Owensboro Catholic. Jacob?
Spencer, take this one first.
Well, I think the first one's fairly easy. I think Owensboro Catholic will take care of Somerset.
Yeah.
The second one is challenging. Who's the typical suspect that has been the bully in 1A? The name that's almost a cuss word down in Raceland, Beechwood. Oh my goodness, Beechwood was a thorn in the side of Fairview and Raceland for 50 years. And then they've been a thorn in the side of LCA. They've been in the side, especially LCA. I think they have 3 wins over them in the state title game alone. I'm going with the upset here, man. You think I'm crazy? You're going to say LCA. I know you are. Beechwood finds their way back to Kroger Field.
Jacob?
LCA and Owensboro Catholic. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you did.
Owensboro Catholic. I think Owensboro Catholic, they're going to put on some form of a wedding dress. The question is it a wedding dress for the bride, or are they going to be a bridesmaid again? They're going to play LCA. I really like what Doug Charles' Eagles team looks like. They are a solid team. They are big up front.
They are.
They've got a lot of speed. I think that your state championship game is this LCA and Beechwood matchup. I think it's going to be
that may be your best matchup across the state. Seriously, out of all classes, that may be the best game. And those are true
Highlands
traditional
and Cooper
powerhouses.
will be a lot better than what some may think.
It might be. I think Cooper's got a lot of built-up anger towards Highlands. So I think that Cooper, no motivation will be needed there. There's no Friday Night Lights halftime speech you're going to have to come in and give the Cooper team to go out and play well against Highlands. For Beechwood, though, it's almost like they are the Alabama or Georgia of 2A. Anything other than a state championship is a disappointment. And for LCA, they've kind of, you mentioned it, man, bridesmaid. Well, listen, you got to throw LCA in there too then, James. A team, and a lot of people won't remember this. LCA for probably 15 years was in the same district as Raceland and Fairview.
Yep, they were
so, and they probably eliminated Raceland's best team they ever had back in 2008. A lot of people are not going to like that, but they did.
All right, let's go to 1A. Sayre Campbellsville. Hankins?
This one's tough, I think, but I'm going to go Sayre.
Spencer?
I'm going to go Sayre, too. I think Sayre, I think Chad Pennington and his team, they got it going on down there, man. They can feel it. They're close to it. They're going to be playing at home. They just sent home the defending 3-time state champ. Give me Sayre, man.
I'm taking Sayre as well. I'm gonna drink the juice this week. I think that I really, like I said, I know Chad from Marshall. I think he does a phenomenal job with his group down there. His son headed to Dayton as a quarterback. The Kaufman kid is as good as they come. He's a D1 wherever he goes. I think they made a lot of people take notice last week with how they played against Pikeville. And a lot of the naysayers, this guy included, that had to look up and say, okay, I was totally wrong on this team. I think Sayre gets this one done.
Not to take anything away from Sayre, but I was told that Pikeville had one of their best players tear his ACL in the warm-ups.
Interesting.
There were some other things that were going on. Of course, I've got some ties down there to Pikeville. There were some other things going on that a lot of people don't know about. But either way, Sayre beat them.
That's all that matters. The number that matters is what's on the scoreboard at the end.
Right.
All right, Raceland and KCD. Jacob?
I'm going to take Raceland's defense to win this game for them.
Spencer?
I think Raceland wins again, man. This is a different challenge than last year's KCD team. This is a really good KCD team. You're going to really have to play well, not turn the ball over. Your special teams has to be, and a lot of things something that people don't think about is it's not frowned upon to have to punt. If you get put in a situation where you think you can pin a team deep, I would do it. But the problem is out of all the teams I've watched this year, everybody has a terrible punter. Oh, my goodness. We need to have a punting instructor come around and just do rounds around the schools and teach these kids how to punt. I think one time, I think I was out at East Carter, and we had a negative 4-yard punt. It's just been a really bad
It was Russell and East Carter.
Jacob remembers what I'm talking about.
Yes, he kicked it straight sideways.
It's been bad this year, James. It's really and I think that the wind's not going to play a factor. I think there'll be a turnover in the game that'll be paramount.
And just like that, Spencer leaves. Oh, there he's back.
I'm not talking about the turnover on downs at midfield. I'm talking about a fumble on your own 20. I think that's a deciding factor. Well, you hate to say this because last week we all looked like idiots. Oh, my goodness. We looked so stupid.
Yes, we did.
So, okay.
Listen, for us to go 9-4 last week in our picks, we made it out of that week very good.
Me and James were in the middle of doing the hazard game, and I looked at him and I told him, I said, if Russell goes down there and pulls us off, I'm not doing a show next week. I can't show my face. I'll just issue an apology, and that is it.
Well, I'm going to go with Raceland in this game as well. And the number that sticks out the most for me is Raceland in 5 of its last 6 games has held its opponents under 50 yards rushing. It has also taken out 2 of the top passers in the state of Kentucky and held them to their lowest output of the entire season. So you talk about a team that you're going to try to make them play left-handed. That already puts KCD in a bind by itself because they don't throw the ball very much and they don't throw it very well at the same time. They want to run the football. They're going to run it into their toughest task that they've played. They have beat their last 2 opponents by a total of 8 points. Raceland has outscored its opponents 146-20. I think Raceland wins this one, and they take care of business in the second half.
It's a classic, and I hate to say this is no discredit to Kentucky Country Day. If you're Raceland, you're playing against yourself. Be disciplined. Yes. Don't turn the ball over. Do what you're supposed to do. Just do your job. I think that's a thing that nobody says anymore. Everybody needs to just worry about how they do their job. If everybody just does that to the best of their capability, Raceland will be fine Friday.
One thing that I was really impressed about with what Coach Jones said about his team is comparing to last year was he said he didn't feel like last year's team was very resilient. This year he said he feels like that his team is set to take a punch and respond. We'll find out Friday night. But
yeah, punches hurt worse when it's cold, though.
Yeah, it does. This one's going to be, again, this is an old-school football game. You may see the ball thrown 10 times both sides, but it's going to be which team takes care of the football, and most importantly, does it go into the orange zone or the red zone and end up with an empty possession?
There's the orange zone.
He had to put that in there, didn't he? When he first said that, I said, what in the world is the orange zone? What in the world? Where's that at? Is that down at Ranberry Bar?
Racing long enough to understand the orange zone.
I guess not.
Yeah, we're Russell guys.
So here we are. So we're at Thanksgiving. And of course, by the time everybody is watching this video, everybody has probably already on their seconds, maybe their third round. We talked about our go-to foods last week. Let's talk about go-to dessert. On Thanksgiving, what is a go-to dessert that you have to have?
A hot fudge brownie.
I hate dessert.
You hate dessert? What is wrong with you?
I don't want I don't want no pies, no cakes, no ice cream, nothing like that. And obviously, by the looks of things, you would think I love it. My biggest problem is, first off, I'm in the media. Secondly, I was in school for the last 12 months. And so when you go to school for 8 hours a day and then you don't get home till 10:30, James, you know better than anybody, you eat what's open. So, and I think that's thrown out I don't like dessert, man. My biggest problem is eating after 8 o'clock. But I'm just going to go double down, and I'm not a big turkey guy. It has to be the dark meat. I love the dark meat better than the
really?
other one. Yeah, the dark meat's the best. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I'm
you don't
all
like
about
it?
The white meat. I love my white meat.
No.
But like I said, I'm going to smoke 3 turkeys. I'm going to try a new one this year with a different way. I'm going to put some of my flavored jelly into one of them and try marinating it with it.
Good Lord.
So if you guys struggled to find turkeys, you know where they're at. He's got
Felicia already sent me an invite. I might come over and pull a Gordon Ramsay going, James, it's just not it.
What you'll do when you walk into my food, the only thing that you'll do is you'll walk in and go, Felicia, where's the baked beans?
That's true. Oh, Jacob, have you not tried her baked beans?
You think I eat baked beans?
You think this kindergartner eats baked beans? If it's not chicken nuggets and a kid's meal, he doesn't eat it.
Listen, I will eat turkey. Though.
He's a Dairy Queen demon is what he is. If they've got a chicken tender basket within 10 miles, Jacob's got like satellite ears. He can hear it.
Listen, he was the favorite thing that happened when we went to Moorhead and they opened that new Huey Magoo's over there. I mean, it was like all the restaurants we could go to eat in Moorhead. The first place he wants to go eat a chicken restaurant.
Jacob. Well, I mean, every time I go to Cheddar's and I take the boys, they always get those buffalo chicken wraps. Every time, the buffalo chicken wraps. It's always chicken. It's always chicken, man. I'm not even like getting anything other than pepperoni pizza in this house is frowned upon.
Took him all the way to Washington, D.C. over the summer. Went to a really nice
Somebody told me
restaurant.
about
What do
this.
you want? Chicken.
Somebody told me about this. That the whole trip he got chicken tenders.
Every place we went.
It was me
we
and
went
Cam
to a
told you about
Mexican
that.
restaurant, and he ordered chicken meal off of the kids' menu.
Tiger, you would think that you're not afraid to ruffle some feathers because you sure will eat them.
So we'll start calling him a Froghorn Leghorn.
All
right,
but
so
listen, I got to ration out my meals tomorrow because I've got to the point. I'm at the age now where I know where I'm going and what their dishes are good. Some places ain't got good turkey. Some places ain't got good ham. So I've got to really be careful with what I eat at certain places.
See, that's the thing. I control everything at my house, so everybody comes to us, so I know what the dishes are. I control all of them.
Yeah, hide the food from the dogs.
No, they get fed tomorrow.
No, I'm just saying in case we don't want to repeat of the pork tenderloin.
No, they get their turkey. All right, so our final show next week, we're going to do live. We're going to do this Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. We're going to make our predictions for all 6 classifications. We'll take your feedback as well. It'll be right here on Kool TV. Again, 7 o'clock next Wednesday night. We'll break everything down. And then the following Friday, you'll play 1, 2, and 4A. Then on Saturday, 2, 6, and 5 is the order that they go in for the state championships down at Kroger Field. Should be a fun show to wrap things up for the regular season.
Yeah, it should be fun. I'm excited to do it live.
Jacob's live premiere. Jacob's never done live shows. Me and James.
I have done a live show. We did one for basketball.
Oh, okay.
He sat there terrified the entire time.
Hey, but listen, I talked more.
Out of everybody, I would put me and James time together and combine it, and it'd be more than anybody in the whole state as far as being live. I did live shows for basketball and football for 5 years. Sometimes I had to delete them, but I did them live.
We may have to get a censor button ready for this one.
Yeah. It's on a 15-second delay.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know if 15 seconds gives us enough to reboot to get you another buffer before it goes in there.
You know what? I've been, knock on wood, I've never been in a situation where I've had to do that.
That's a good thing.
It wasn't that I was cussing. Yeah, one time I did, but that was before I was with Cool Heads. But it's just because
we'll have Cam sitting in the back just hitting a button every time. So we're ready for it.
I mean, let's not pretend like these people don't speak like that at their house. You know what I mean? I mean, we know how you talk at your house. Probably the same way I talk at mine.
100%. All right, guys, enjoy the weekend. We'll talk to you next week. For Jacob Hankins, Spencer Hutchinson, I'm James Collier. This has been the Football Preview Show, Semifinals Edition. We'll talk to you next week for the live show, 7 o'clock Wednesday night as we wrap things up for the state championship right here on Kool TV.